Hello, I am discussing about literature review today. Literature review is a summary of subject field that supports the identification of specific research questions. It also needs to draw and evaluate the range of different types of source, including the academic and professional journals, articles, books, and web-based resource. A literature review is a research and the evaluation of the available literature in your given subject or chosen topic area. A piece of academic writing includes the current knowledge on a topic, substantive findings, theories, and methodological contribution. Literature review is the scholarly chronicle, a historical record of the evolving ideas and themes. Intellectual discourse engaged in academic conversation and uh, deals into past dialogues, revealing obscured insights on unearthed valuable overlooked studies, spotting emerging patterns, identify the emerging trends and unexplored resource areas. Contribution to the scholarly community and enhance the collective knowledge and enrich academic dialogues. Generally, literature review is scholarly chronicle, historical records and ideas, themes, intellectual discourse, uh, engage in the academic conversation and delves in past intellectual discourse, revealing the obscured insights on Earth's valuable overlooked studies, spotting emerging patterns, identifying the emerging trends and unexplored resource areas. Contribution to the scholarly community, enhance the collective knowledge and enrich academic dialogue. Uh, the purpose of literature review is to collect relevant timely resource on your chosen topic and synthesize it into a cohesive summary of the existing knowledge in the field. Conducting the literature review establishes your familiarity with an understanding on the current resource in a particular field before carrying out new investigation. After doing the literature review, you should know what research has already been done and be able to identify what is unknown within your topics. Demonstrates your knowledge of the topic and identify the what has been done before and gaps. Provide a background to your inquiry and set out the resource agenda. Locate your project within the current debates and viewpoints. Supports you in reviewing and refining your research topic questions and hypotheses. Helps you to analyze your findings and discuss theme with rigor and scholarships. Literature's literally source are the information gathering in written forms that explain the essence of the ancient culture. Source incorporate the information like journals, letters, books, and investigative reports in impression, automated, and visual composition. Primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. Primary sources report thesis, conference, proceedings, sums, government publications. Secondary books, journal, newspapers, and tertiary index abstracts, encyclopedia, dictionaries, bibliographies, and citation index. Roadmap of the literature review. There are the four stages of literature review, such as the formulating of resource problem, sourcing for the relevant literature, evaluating and pricing literature, and analyzing the synthesizing the source. Roadmaps of literature review, first of all, develop the source themes and source using the terms, then after identify Initial primary source in the topic, and uh, then you read the abstracts in possibly additional section in the article, narrow sources needed. Then after summarize in the paragraphs forms important information and from each sources include the citation. Then after you can create the thematically focused summary of the information. And then you prepare for the first draft by identifying an organization approach in writing the strategically and write the first draft and edit, proof, and polish repeatedly. Types of literature review, narrative or traditional literature review, critically appraised topics, scoping reviews, systematic literature reviews, annotated bibliographies. Thematic review related to your topic concept, theoretical review related to the theories related to your topics, empirical review related to the previous studies and related to your problem, policy review various policies related to the your topics problem. Structure of literature review in general, literature reviews are structured in a similar way to a standard easy with an introduction of body and a conclusion. These are key structural elements. Additionally, an stand-alone extended literature review has an abstract. Introduction it gives the idea the topics of literature review such as the central themes of organization patterns body contains your discussion of the source. In conclusion and recommendation, discuss what you have drawn from your reviewing the literature so far. Where might you be the discussion proceed? Organization of literature review, just like the most academic prepares literature, must contain at least three basic elements: an introduction or background information section, the body of the review containing the discussion of the source, and finally, a conclusion and recommendation section to in the paper. Organization in writing is now how ideas are presented typically. Organization refers to the larger parts of the piece of writing, although it also refers to the how paragraphs and sentences are written. The flow of the piece of the writing affects how readers interpret ideas. In general, organization looks like the funnel and broader topics, subtopics, strategic like yours. Broader topics, subtopics. How to organize the studies, choose you outline the method and outline the X of the road map of your objective. Create the goals and the deadlines and use a calendar, resource notebook, weekly progress reports, proofread. Keep a works cited page for your resource, back of your resource documents. Chronological by publication date, by trend, thematic or structure which considers different themes, thematic, chronological, methodological focus on the methods of the researcher, example, qualitative versus quantitative approach, have the same is your literature review for clarity. Can they understand what you are trying to say? Flow. Does the organization make sense? Completeness are these areas left out, questions left unanswered, statements without the citation. A good literature review is a good literature review does not just summarize, source it, analyze, synthesize, and critically evaluate to give a clear picture on the state of the knowledge of the subject. A literature review may consist of simply a summary of the key source, but in the social science, a literature review usually has an organizational pattern and combines both summary and the synthesis of one within the specific conceptual categories. Focus, the topics should be narrow and only present ideas and when the reports studies are the closely related to the topics. Concise. Ideas should be presented economically, don't more space than you need and present your ideas. Logical, the flow within and among paragraphs should be smooth logical progression from one idea to the next. Develop, don't leave the story tool integrative. Your writing should stress how the ideas in the studies are related. Focus on the big picture. What commonality do all the studies share? How are some studies different than others? Your writing should stress how all these studies reviewed contribute to your topic current. Your review should focus on work being done on the cutting edge of your topics. Examples of literature review. The literature review is the survey of the scholarly, such as the books, journals, articles, and these are related to the specific topic of research. You can take the paragraph from your books, journals, articles, and it. Uh, it is often written as the part of thesis, dissertation, or research paper in order to situate your work in relation to existing knowledge. Definition of conceptual framework. A conceptual framework set forth of standard to define a research question and find appropriate, meaningful answers for the same. It connects the theories, assumptions, beliefs, and concepts behind your research and presents them in a pictorial, graphical, or narrative format. A conceptual framework represents the researcher's synthesis of the literature on how to explain a phenomenon. It maps out the actions required in the course of the study given his or previous knowledge of other researcher's point of view and his observation on the subject of the research. In other words, the conceptual framework is the researcher understanding of how the particular variables in his or study connect with each other. Thus, it identifies the variables required in the research investigation. It is the researcher's maps in pursuing the investigation. As the McGraffey et al., the conceptual framework is set of the stage for the presentation of the particular questions that drives investigation being reported based on the problem statement. The problem statement of thesis presents in the context and issues that cause the researcher to conduct a study. The conceptual framework lies with a much broader framework called theoretical framework, and the latter draws the supports from the time-tested theories that embody the findings of many researchers on why and how a particular phenomenon occurs. Conceptual framework is illustrated expected relationship between your variables, and it defines the relevant objectives for your research process and maps out how they come together to draw coherent conclusion. A framework provides an explicit explanation of why the problems under study exist by showing how the variables relate to each other. The conceptual framework steers the whole research activity. The conceptual framework serves map or rudder that will guide you towards realizing the objectives internet of your study. Theoretical structure or assumption principles and rules that holds together that ideas comprising the broad concept. It is the research's explanation of how the research problem would be explored. It provides a picture or visual display of how ideas in a study relate to one another. The purpose of conceptual framework, the clarify the concept of purpose relationship among the concept of study to provide the context and interpreting the study, the findings, to explain the observations, to encourage theory development, that is the useful practice. There are some steps or guide for conceptual framework, and choose your topics. Decide what will be your the research topics. The topics should be within your field of specialization. Do a literature review of literature relevant and updated research on the theme that you decide to work on after scrutiny of the issue and at hand. Preferably use the peer-reviewed and well-known scientific journals as these are reliable sources of information. Isolate the important Isolate the important variables and identify the specific variables described in the literature and figure out these are related. Some abstracts contain the variables and the salient findings thus may serve the purpose. If these are not available, find the research paper's summary. If the variables are not explicit in the summary, get back to the methodology or the results and discussion section and quickly identify the variables of the study and the significant findings. Generate the conceptual frameworks. Build your conceptual framework using your mix or the variables from the scientific articles you have read. Your problems statement serves as a reference in constructing the conceptual framework. In effect, your study will attempt to answer at questions that other researchers have not explained yet. Your research should address a knowledge gap. Model of conceptual framework, framing the teacher leadership attributes to school climate. This independent variables and dependent variables, universal attributes, transformative attributes, benevolence attributes, head teacher leadership attributes, in holistic theory and association in school climate, school safety, teaching and learning, interpersonal relationship, participatory and resourceful environment, teacher, head teacher, and staff only. Theory of organization climate, conceptual framework. A theory comprises a generalization and specifically explains the relationship between the phenomena. Its basic components are concept. Thus, the theory is the set of the statements, each of which express the relationship among concepts. Theories are generated by using the inductive process. A deductive approach is used to evaluate and modify existing theory by testing the predictions about relationship between observed phenomena. What is the theoretical framework? The theoretical framework is the structure that can hold and support the theory of research study. Theoretical framework encompasses just the theory and the narrative explanation about how researchers engage in using the theory and its underlying assumptions to investigate the research problem. It is the blueprint of the guide for research. And the theoretical framework is the structure that can hold, support a theory of research study. It introduces and describes the theory that explains why the research problems under the study exist. A theoretical framework is similar to the frame of the house, just as the foundation supports a house. A theoretical framework provides a rational for predictions about the relationships among variables of the research study. Purpose of theoretical framework to test theory, to make the research findings meaningful and generalized, to establish the ordinary connection between the observation and facts, to predict and control situation and stimulate research. A difference between theoretical framework and conceptual framework, broader scope, narrow scope, and general less structure and loosely defined, very specific defined structure, no ambiguity, no definition. In case of theoretical framework derived from the theories and that already exist, derived from the concept specific variables that may be identified in the study of itself, provide the basic foundations for a research study, provide the structural paradigm for a research analysis. It is the starting point of the discussion, makes readers aware of the follows. It lies in the entire commencement of the study. Teacher and leadership attributes, positive correlation, school climate, fairness, compassion, integrity, humbleness, respectfulness, com competency, theory of holistic in the active relationship, school teacher, head teacher, staff, only participatory and resourceful environment, interpersonal real relationship, teaching and learning, school staff, organization, climate theory. Plagiarism, presenting work or ideas from the another source as your own without consent of the original author, by incorporating it in or the work without full acknowledgement. Plagiarism is means using the someone's work without giving them proper credit. In academic writing, plagiarizing involves using words, ideas, or information from a source without citing it correctly. In practice, this can mean a few different things. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, plagiarism means to steal and pass off the ideas of the words of another as one's, to use the another's production without crediting the source, to commit literary theft, to present a new and original idea of product derived from the existing source. How to avoid the plagiarism in general? You will avoid plagiarism. You paraphrase if you use words or phrase that are the distinctive to your original source. Alternatively, you can use the quotation marks and provide the citation to indicate the text that is identical to original source. Okay, I'm discussing about the literature review. And literature review, conceptual framework, and theoretical framework. And last, I have discussed about parallelism. Okay, I have finished my some discussion about literature review, including conceptual framework and theoretical framework with uh, parallelism. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your patience. That's now. Bye bye.